Grade 4, would you please open your booklet page 74? On page 74, you will see the keywords for using the past continuous tense. When, while, as, just as. While, as, just as are followed by past continuous long action, and when is followed by past simple short action or past continuous, and this is for a long action. Note, if you start a sentence with while, as, or when, don't forget to put a comma. Let me read the example. When I was having lunch, comma, someone knocked on the door. Here we have two actions. Let's see which action happens first. Is it was having lunch or someone knocked on the door? Of course, having lunch, this is the first action. That's why we put it in the past continuous tense. And knocked the door, this is the second action. That's why we put it in the past simple tense. Okay, my dear students? But if you write when or while in the middle, there is no comma. Okay, my dear students? So you have to ask yourself a question. Which action happens first? If you have an answer to this question, so the first action, you put it in the past continuous tense. And the other action, which is the second one, you put it in the past simple tense. As for if you don't have an answer to this question, so both action will be in the past continuous tense. So two long actions happening at the same time, both will be in the past continuous tense. But long action happened first in the past continuous tense, and short action happened second and interrupted the first action will be in the past simple tense. Okay, my dear students? Now let's get page 75. Here we have some exercises. Rewrite the following sentences using the words in brackets. Number 1. I played a football match yesterday. Here, the sentence is in the past simple tense. How do we know that? From the verb played. It ends with ed. And also from the keyword yesterday. So we need to use at 5 o'clock yesterday. So this is a specific time in the past. So we have to use a past continuous tense. So we will say, I was playing a football match at 5 o'clock yesterday. You notice here, we cancel the ed from the verb and we put ing. And also we write was because here we have the pronoun I. Remember how we form the past continuous tense, was and were plus the verb ing. Okay, my dear students, here the pronoun I takes was. Number 2, they cleaned their house yesterday. Also the same, we want to say at 3 o'clock yesterday. Number 2 is in the past simple tense because the verb ends with ed and the keyword yesterday. So if you have a specific time in the past, this is past continuous tense. So we will say they were cleaning their house at 3 o'clock yesterday. As you notice here, we cancel the ed from the verb and we write they were because they takes were and then the verb plus ing. So they were cleaning their house at 3 o'clock yesterday. At a specific time yesterday, exactly at 3 o'clock. Okay? Number 3, I answered the phone, I had my lunch. Here we have two actions. Had my lunch and answered the phone. What do you think? Which action happens first? Had my lunch or answered the phone? Excellent. Of course, had my lunch, this is first, and then I answered the phone. So the first action, we put it in the past continuous tense and the second action in the past simple tense. So we will say, I answered the phone when I was having my lunch. I answered the phone. This is the past simple tense because this is the second action when I was having my lunch. As you notice here, what comes after when? Past continuous tense because this is the first action. Okay, my dear students? And I take was and the verb here plus ing, having. Number 4, the monkey was eating apples. I want to make the sentence negative. So the negative form in the past continuous tense, we know we have was or were and then the verb plus ing. This is for the affirmative. In the negative, we simply write not after was and were. Okay, my dear students? So here the answer is the monkey wasn't eating apples. Number 5. They were drawing pictures when the teacher came to them. I want to start the question with what, so I will say, what were they doing when the teacher came to them? As you notice here, we start with the WH word what. After it, we write where, and then we have the pronoun they, and look at the verb, it ends with ing, doing. Okay, it ends with the verb ing, doing. Number 6, they made their beds yesterday. Again, at 8 o'clock yesterday, at a specific time in the past, so we will write they were making their beds at 8 o'clock yesterday. The verb here, made, this is a regular verb and we have to make it make to the past form of the verb. So, they were making, and we will cross the E from the verb and we will add ing. They were making their beds at 8 o'clock yesterday. In number 7, I listened to music, my father came home. So, the answer here, I was listening to music when my father came home. I was listening, this is the first action, that's why we put it in the past continuous tense. And my father came home, this is the second action, that's why we put it in the past simple tense. So I was listening to music when my father came home. In number 8, he wrote a letter yesterday. Again, we want to use at 9 o'clock yesterday. So, wrote here, this is in the past, and this is irregular verb, and we have to make the verb in the past form, write. So, the answer here, he was writing a letter at 8 o'clock yesterday. And again, we cancel the E from the verb, and then we put ing. He take was, and the verb here also plus ing. He was writing a letter at 8 o'clock yesterday. Number 9. My mother cooked a nice meal yesterday. We want to use at 2 o'clock yesterday, so I will say, my mother was cooking a nice meal yesterday. My mother, she takes was, and then the verb here plus ing, okay? And this action takes place at a specific time in the past, at 2 o'clock yesterday. Okay, my dear students. Number 10. He was buying books when I saw him. I want to ask a question, so I will say, what was he doing when you saw him? I will start with the WH word and was, because here we have the pronoun he, and look at the verb, it's plus ing. Okay? Number 11. They were going to the club when I heard the news. I want to ask a question, so I will say, where were they going when you heard the news? As you notice here, we start with the WH word and we write where, because here we have the pronoun they, and look at the verb, it ends with ing. Okay, my dear students? Number 12. He was reading the book to enjoy his time. I want to know why was he reading the book, so I will say, why was he reading a book? We start with the WH word, and then we write was or where, and then the subject. After that, we write the verb plus ing. So why was he reading a book? Number 13. We sat in the garden, the wind blew. So here we have two actions, the wind blew and sat in the garden. We need to know which action happens first. Let's see. We were sitting in the garden when the wind blew. So, sitting in the garden, this is the first action. So, we write it in the past continuous tense. We were sitting in the garden when the wind blew. This is the second action. We put it in the past simple tense. Number 14. It rained heavily yesterday. We want to use at 4 o'clock yesterday. This is a specific time in the past. So, we are using the past continuous tense. So we will say, it was raining heavily at 4 o'clock yesterday. Number 15. I studied my lessons. I heard a cry. Here we have two actions. Studied my lessons and heard a cry. So here, of course, which action happens first? Studied my lesson. We put it in the past continuous tense, and heard a cry, this is the second action, that's why we will put it in the past simple tense. So the answer here is, I was studying my lessons when I heard a cry. Number 16, we were playing football when it rained. Here, we were playing football when it rained. I want to start a question with what, so I will say what were you doing when it rained. Here, what, the WH word, where, because here we have the pronoun you, and then the verb plus ing, doing, when it rained. Next, number 17. She had an accident. She drove her car. What do you think? Which action happened first? Drove her car or had an accident? Excellent. Of course, drove her car. So we will put drove her car in the past continuous tense. So we will say she was driving her car when she had an accident. Number 18. I played video games. My cousin phoned me. Again, we have here two actions. What do you think? Which one happens first? Is it played video games or phoned me? Well done, my dear students. So I was playing video games when my cousin phoned me. I was playing, this is the first action, that's why we put it in the past continuous tense. And my cousin phoned me. This is the second action. That's why we put it in the past simple tense.